If you've ever sent your hiring plan to finance and been left guessing, then this one's for you. So one of the things we're going to do today is walk through how to use Claude in Excel to recreate a lot of the analysis that your junior analyst would normally do so that you can actually just get on with doing the work yourself. So this comes from the most popular course that we offer. It's the Ultimate Recruiter Capacity Planning course. And if we go into the course, you can see that we have some resources at the bottom. We have this capacity model template. Now, if you were to go into the course and actually use this, we see there's a bunch of different tabs. Now, all of the green cells that we've actually added a calculation into here, where we've tried to figure out exactly how to actually create that first model. But what we're going to do today is actually give this model to Claude and say, create this model for us from scratch and figure out if we're actually going to meet our hiring goals this year. That's ultimately the question that most people are trying to answer when they're trying to create this capacity model. So if we look at the actual template itself, and you'll find the link to the template in the description below, you can see that we have the capacity model here. And what I've done is delete all of the data in these green cells. I also cut down the tabs just to keep it a little more simple. We have our recruiter capacity calculator here. This is what we normally use to figure out how many hires can we get per recruiter per month. And it gives us the amount of recruiters we actually need. And the pacing dashboard, which shows us how we're actually tracking towards goal. So I'm really curious, I've not actually run this in test yet, to see if we can actually recreate this analysis using Claude. So I'm going to go over to a blank template here. You can see I've done nothing in here yet, nothing in the kind of Claude bot on the side here. And you'll see that I have the add-in already installed. If you don't have the add-in yet, just click on the add-ins, just search for Claude, and you'll be able to find it. It won't turn up for me because I already have it installed, but you'll install Claude by Anthropic, log in, and then assuming you're on the paid plan, you should get full access to this. It's in beta mode right now, which means it may not always work 100%, but that's what we're here to try and figure out today. So I'm going to add a file. I'm going to go to my downloads, and I'm going to add the copy of the capacity model. Now, I already created the prompt, so you can actually just copy the one that I've used if you want to test this out yourself. So take this blank capacity model, take the prompt, and figure out if you can actually solve the problem yourself. But essentially all we're doing is asking it to use the template that we've got to recreate the entire capacity model. And really, ultimately, the thing we're trying to do here is fill in the model and tell me what the data says about whether we can hit our hiring goals. I mean, this is ultimately everything we're trying to do with our capacity modeling, is to create a business case for how many recruiters we need in order to hit the goals that we're trying to accomplish within a given year. So I'm going to go back to our original spreadsheet, and we'll keep an eye on what's happening, but I can show you exactly how we structure this in real time and essentially what we teach during the course. So the main problem that people come to us with is they've been promoted into a director level role, and they're trying to figure out, okay, given my new role and given I'm now managing the team, when I go to finance and give them a target number of recruiters I need in order to hit the overall hiring goal for a given year, what is that going to be, and how can I provide the data to support that? Oh, here we go. Okay, Claude wants to create 3 sheets. Okay, you can see it's already created those 3 tabs. So kind of going back to our original data sheet, I'm going to keep an eye on things and kind of go back over. This is actually my first time using Claude in Excel. I've taken a couple of tutorials, but you're seeing this live. So if I mess it up, you know why. So how does our capacity model work? So it's very simple. I tried to create this to give everyone a chance to actually model their own capacity plan. So normally you would have a headcount forecast from a people analytics team or a workforce planning team. In my case, I sometimes wasn't always presented that, so I actually had to build my own. And the way that I did that was actually build in basic attrition assumptions and basic headcount growth goals. So what I did with this first tab, the headcount forecast, and again, you can play around with this and we'll see how Claude does with building this out. I just created a monthly attrition and a monthly headcount growth assumption. So you can say that each month we're going to see headcount grow by a certain amount and attrition decrease that overall headcount by a certain amount. And what that means is that in order to hit our headcount growth target, we're actually going to have to hire more people than leave the organization, which is obvious when you say it out loud, but in a lot of models, we don't account for one or the other. And so that's why generally by halfway or 3/4 of the way through the year, a lot of organizations are behind in their hiring plan. So as we go through this, you can see we're using kind of pretty basic financial type analysis here. So we're looking at the starting headcount. I just used a 500 number assumption here. The attrition, so we would normally calculate this by multiplying the starting headcount by monthly attrition goals or monthly attrition expectations. Net ads, which is how many ads we're going to need in order to increase the headcount to where we expect it to be, what the rec backlog is going to be, the goal headcount, open requisitions, and recs filled. So these are all coming from our requisition tracker, and what we'll see over time is that the expected number of recs that we have in the backlog will increase if we don't have enough capacity to meet expectations. And so that's just the basic framing. And the way I like to color code all the spreadsheets, if you've ever downloaded anything from my channel before, you can see that the data inputs are generally in yellow. The calculated fields are generally in green, which means you don't have to touch them. And that's where we're going to test this new integration today to figure out, can we actually just have Claude do all this for us? And then the key metrics are the ones that we really want to focus on. And for this, we want to know what is the estimated headcount and what is our backlog over the course of this planning period. If we go into the actual template, we can see how this actually maps out in real time. I did all of the initial work in Google Sheets because you can download it into Excel. But given that Claude is built into Excel, we wanted to kind of run that as an experiment today. All right, this is interesting because it's already finished well before I expected. So let's just jump across and see what it says. So here we have our capacity model, and we can actually compare it to what we have over on the left-hand side. So what this is saying here is that we're starting with 500 heads. We're going to lose 8, so we're rounding off C5 times by C16. So we're going to lose 8. I think rounding is really interesting because you get whole numbers, but it also maybe under or overestimates based on where you expect to be. I think given this is just an example, I think it's helpful, but let's see how it actually manifests over the course of the year. So I think we're going to end our headcount at 539 with a 22 rec backlog. This actually is giving us 562 headcount with 0 backlog, which is an interesting analysis. So the actual goal headcount is about the same, but the estimated headcount is a little bigger. Let's see if any of the numbers have changed on the other pages. So the recruiting capacity, so let's see. So assuming that we're going to get 2 hires a month. Again, this is rounding. So I think this is an interesting analysis because what we're seeing here is that whereas I like to keep the numbers in decimals, I think Claude is rounding them off so we get clean numbers. What this actually means is that we're probably overestimating a little bit where we're actually going to land. So whereas my hires per month per recruiter was 1.84, this is assuming it's 2, which then means that every 10 months we're getting 2 fewer hires, I think is how that works out. So estimated total recs 158, recruiters needed 7, that's about right. And let's see the pacing dashboard. Okay, so this is interesting. So it didn't recreate the chart that I like to have, but it did give us actual hires and the actual backlog. So this is a little more interesting because this is something you'd actually update in real time and build your own pacing chart. But the fact is it actually created all the formulas correctly, even though we deleted these. I'm not sure how it decided which ones were purple and which ones were green. So let's have a look at what it says here. Can I expand this? Oh, here we go. Okay, everything's working correctly. So model summary. Each hire requires 60 hours of recruiter effort. Is that true? Yep, so 60 hours of recruiter effort. How did I calculate it? 61, so that's about right, 60.8. 80% utilization, that's 100 per recruiter, yielding 2 hires per month with 7 recruiters. Monthly team capacity is 14 hires. That makes a lot of sense, and if you were giving that to a finance leader, I think that's quite defensible. So I can hire 14 people a month with 7 recruiters. How many hires do you need me to make over the course of the year? And you can actually back into whether you can deliver against that. The headcount forecast, starting from 500 with attrition, we need to fill 13 to 14 open recs per month. So that capacity is about right. The model shows 0 backlog if hiring hits plan. So it would actually grow by the rate that we said we want to grow. The first 7 months created a deep hole, actual hires ramped. 5 unfilled recs will carry into the next year, that's expected. So it's actually very quickly done the analysis that we would normally teach over the course of maybe an hour in a few minutes and gives you a summary output. I think what I'd want to do next is actually go back and pressure test some of these assumptions, maybe ask a few more questions. So what I'm hoping actually in these few minutes that we spent playing around with this Claude model is you can see how you can take a template, put it into Claude and have that actually build out the whole model yourself. So if I'm a TA leader or a HR leader right now, and I'm trying to figure out how do I answer a question, it can sometimes feel quite abstract. But if you actually start with the endpoint of this is the table I want to see and be able to communicate this to the CHRO or the CFO, give that table to Claude with all the data that you currently have, And it should, in theory, be able to figure out how to actually build the formulas in order to give you what you need. What I would then check is make sure that everything makes sense and you can explain it and describe it. But if we started this process with trying to figure out, okay, I have all this data, how do I come up with an action plan? Now we have this action plan and we can actually be more confident going into those conversations with heads of finance or business leaders and actually standing our ground and having data behind it. So hopefully that was helpful. If you want to see more like this, please comment, please like, please subscribe. Really appreciate all that, and we'll chat soon.